Hello fellow adventurers and collectors, Filmaholic here, and before the video starts I have a couple things I wanted to bring to your attention. The first being that YouTube is currently making plans to change the way that content is being distributed to its subscribers, and I'm going to link you to a video by RetroBlasting that is actually going in depth in the subject. And if you're a fan of toy collecting and you have your favorite YouTuber and things like that, I would highly recommend looking into it and actually filling out the form they link below, because this impacts you too. So, something on a lighter note, I've also added a new feature on my channel where it's linking you to other reviewers and things like that, because I feel like it would be nice to promote other people. And if you're not finding the content you like here, you can always check them out. With that said, let's continue with the showcase. So with the news that ThreeA as a company is no longer existing, I figured we'd take a look at the ThreeA figures I do have in my collection. Granted, it's not large and it doesn't have every single figure that they released, but I figured I'd do this because I have a lot of fond memories with the line, even though I got into it way later than most. So I figured no better way to start than the first figure that I got from them. And I remember looking on Instagram and seeing these figures and always wondering where they came from. And it was some of the amazing photography by Shakem and things like that that really got me into them. So when I saw this guy on eBay, I figured I'd pick him up for a great price. It was pretty low for what it is, because it's a ThreeA membership exclusive figure. So it's not like it's one of the typical releases. And this was also part of their venture into the 8-inch scale for some reason. It was kind of odd that they went with that scale, considering not a lot of figures come out in that lineup. I want to say NECA is the closest thing, but I'm not sure about that. It's an amazing figure and one that I really do cherish, and that's why it's my profile picture on my account. Now after that figure, I did end up getting the Punterbot Sniper. And funny story about this one, the only way I found it was through a mislabeled title on eBay. The original seller thought it was from Fallout, and I could totally see that, but it worked out in my favor because I got this way less than retail, and if it wasn't for that listing I probably wouldn't have as many figures as I do now. So I guess everything happens for a reason. I normally don't display him with his sniper rifle because it's extremely massive and it would take up too much room. And again, this is another figure that I'm really close to because it was the first figure I reviewed for my YouTube channel. That review is not great, so do not look at that. But without that video, I probably wouldn't be here now. And I rarely display it with the ghillie suit too, but figured why not. Now for the next figure that I got, I want to say it was on a whim actually, because I didn't think it was going to work out in my favor, but you know how eBay works. When you don't want a figure necessarily, it'll give you the figure. But nonetheless, I still ended up with a great figure. It's another one that I reviewed on the channel, but again, it's not great, but it gets the point across. You know, these are very stylized figures that I enjoy, you know, and for the most part, that's the main reason why I got into the line. There really isn't anything equivalent out there. So, even though ThreeA is no longer a company, I think Underverse will give us the same quality as Ashley Wood has stated before on Instagram and things like that. So I look forward to it, but it's kind of sad to see this company go. Now I ended up with this figure again on a whim. I offered the seller a low price and they took it for surprisingly. And this was before the big boom where everything started to rise in price. It's a great figure overall, and when I reviewed it I initially said it was an entry-level figure, but for some reason it has increased in price. I'm not sure why. This was a figure I actually used for the contest that ThreeA had earlier in the year. Granted, I did not win, but those that did win, they had some amazing photography, so I can understand why they won. I also got to get the corresponding figures in this Underverse range, but that's for another date. Now Now, I don't remember how I ended up with this figure, to be honest with you. It's the in the dark version, which is more rare, I want to say. I'm not necessarily sure how that worked, but I do want to get the normal version of this guy, or at least the black-headed version, because I really do like the sculpt on this guy, and the clothes are pretty nice as well. I had an opportunity to get the normal head, but it was kind of overpriced, so I decided to pass on it. Kind of regret it, but you know, there was going to be another time to get these figures, so I'm not too worried about it. And at least I have this one, so that's another good thing as well. Now this figure is actually a custom that I found on eBay, and as great as the figure as it is, and it's not necessarily the seller's fault either, it's just the weakness of the joints, but this one right here on the right is actually broken and I had to replace it, so it's just the fragile nature of that figure in the mold, so nothing too worked up about. Something I'm not really worked up about, I should say. Not really sure where all these pieces came from either, but it's an interesting design that the seller went with, and he even drew a picture for it as well that I do have to this day. Up next, we have Mr. 71 himself, Ashley Wood. So when I heard the news that ThreeA was ending, I decided to take this guy out and take a picture of him. It's one of my favorite shots. It's a little bittersweet, you know, and I'll showcase that at the end in the credits. I kind of wish that he came with extra hands. Oh, yeah. Sorry, just making sure it was Mr. 71, but you know, I just wish he came with extra hands to get more posable options out of him. Because right now he's just always in this stance in my collection. Up next we have another custom that was made by another artist in 2011. I forget who, but if I remember I'll add it here in the link or in the actual feed. But yeah, it's a great looking piece, and you can tell a lot of effort went into it and a lot of paint application, and he actually modified one of the head sculpts to fit the 1/6 scale body, so that was pretty neat. And it's an interesting concept, and that's what initially drew me to the figure when I saw it on eBay. And that's the thing I have to mention as well. I get a lot of these figures off of eBay because now that 3A is no longer existing, and I got into the line pretty late. I never really got an opportunity to buy it brand new. So my experience has always been through secondhand, which is fine with me. And I was inspired after getting this piece to actually create my own custom, so I used parts that I had and put this together. I've been debating on trying to weather it, but knowing me, I would not be great at it, and I do have to replace the boots at some point too. But going back to the painting thing, I just don't trust myself enough, and I would like to use the parts again in another figure at some point. And again, here he is from the back. It's a great figure, and I do like the line overall, and I wish I had gotten more, or at least I had gotten into the line early on than I did. But regardless, I still found the line, and then through Instagram and the amazing people there, I was introduced to some of my favorite figures in my collection. So with that said, I thank you all for watching, and until next time, I'll see you around.